Gamers, welcome in. I've got another PvP build for you, and today it's a Nightblade. This isn't your typical Nightblade ganking build though. I wanted to make a Nightblade that was more of a brawler rather than that hide and gank playstyle. This build is great for jumping into the thick of the action. It can take a lot of hits and of course dish out the damage too. We've also spec'd a lot into crit chance and crit damage, giving us that huge burst potential. For me, PvP is the most fun when you can just jump straight into all the action and see if you can come out on top. If you want the short version of this build, then check out the 1-minute build version. I'll leave a link to that in the description. But if you want all the details, then stay right here. So let's get into it. Okay, so here we are with a Nightblade PvP build. First of all, let's look at the stats. So we've got almost 32k health, almost 25k stamina, relatively okay magicka pool, over 2k stamina recovery, 1.2k magicka recovery. Weapon damage might seem a little on the low side at 5k, but it does get higher than that. The main thing we want to look at though is the critical, 42% crit rating and almost 8k penetration and some nice resistances and crit resist when it's all said and done. We've got 64 points into stamina. You can play around, put some more into magicka if you feel like it, if you feel like you need it. I like having a big stamina pool though for the dodge rolls and the break frees and stuff. Consumables Mundus, we're using the Thief for the extra weapon and spell crit. We are using Smoked Bear Haunch, which it gives us health and then it gives us magicka and stamina recovery, which I think is pretty important on this build. This is a very expensive food, but you really do need the recovery on this build. That's the one thing we're lacking with if we don't have this food on. Especially seeing as we're advanced stage 3 and all of our skills cost more, plus 8%, but we do get a nice old passive with it for stage 3, which is reduce your damage taken up to 30% based on your missing health, which is great to have when you're in the thick of it. Also for potions, we're just using the tripods for the recoveries as well. So we'll get into the sets. The first set we're using is a new one. Back Alley Gourmand. This adds crit chance, weapon and spell damage, and then while you have a food buff active, which is 100% of the time hopefully, your crit damage and critical healing is increased by 13%. So that's especially on a Nightblade where we get a lot of guaranteed crits and we have a high crit chance as well in 42%. It means we get a lot of damage and a lot of healing. We do only have this on the front bar though. But we've got it on 2 axes, because axes increase crit damage as well, and then we've got it on the necklace and 2 rings as well. So yeah, I really wanted to try out a set that I really wanted a high crit build, because I've noticed less and less people are using impenetrable less and less this patch, so I thought I'd take advantage of that and make a lot of crit. And Nightblades do get a lot of crit, and if we look at the advanced stats, we're getting 47% unbuffed extra crit damage on top of what we already get. So you can hit hard as some huge burst potential if all your crits line up. So paired with this, we have gone with Ancient Dragon Guard. I really like the set. What it does is it gives you health, weapon and spell damage, another load of crit chance, and then adds weapon and spell damage when you're above 50% health. And then when you fall below 50% health, it gives you extra resistances. So it gives you damage when you're fine and you're full health and you're great, and then when you're in panic mode, it gives you resistances for survivability. So we have this on 5 body pieces: the chest, belt, feet, legs, and hands. So that's going to be active at all times. You're always going to have the more damage, and you're always going to have the extra resistances if you need it. And then we have the 1 piece of Ballogs on the shoulder for extra damage. You can change this to a 1-piece recovery if you need, but I like the damage there. And then we've gone with Gaze of Sithis. So I really like this. It takes a while to get used to. What it does, it's just a one-piece mythic. It gives you health, huge amount of health recovery, which is halved in PvP, a huge amount of armor, extra 4,000 armor, but it reduces your block mitigation to 0. So what that means is, when you try and block, whoever's hitting you will still be doing the full amount of damage. You can't block any damage. What you can do though is block certain stuns, like if you get a meteor used on you, you can still block it and stop it from stunning you, but it will still do the maximum amount of damage. And then last but not least, one of my favorite sets on the back bar, Vadashran. When you use Frenzied Momentum, or Rally as we have in this case, it gives you more damage and lets you stack a Violent Explosion. So we have the Defending on the back bar, and then we've got 2 Sharpened on the front bar with a Shock damage and Disease damage enchant. So if we talk about weights and traits, I believe we have 3 heavy on the big pieces, the helm, the chest, and the legs. And then we have 2 medium and 2 light. So medium on the feet and the hands, and then 2 light. So we have a nice mixture of all of them. We have 2 reinforced on the big pieces. And then 1 well fitted, I believe, on the belt for the extra dodge rolls and stuff, and then just some impen so we don't get crit too hard. Mostly stamina enchants on all the 5 pieces, and then 1 magicka, and then I have a tri-stat on the helm. You can play around with those. I've found quite a good balance with this though. Okay, I do have an alternative set to talk about. This, if you do struggle to keep yourself alive on this build, usually it's quite good because we are using cloak as well, which is, you know, the best survivability skill in the game if you ask me, being able to turn invisible. But we do have quite a bit of resistances, especially when we get below 50% health. We get an extra 3,500. We have 4,000 from Gaze of Sithis. We have, we have resistances, major and minor, resolve as well. Please use vigor. There we go. So see, we've got over 30k, and then with the vampire passive as well for reduced damage, it gets quite nice. But if you do struggle to survive, I always recommend putting on Trial by Fire instead, which gives you health, armor, healing taken, and then while under the effect of an elemental status effect, you gain a huge amount of armor. And because you're in PvP, you are under the effect of an elemental status effect almost 100% of the time. So it gives you a nice solid chunk of armor. So I would just swap out these 5. I would just swap out Ancient Dragon Guard and put on Trial by Fire. See how it feels. You'll be even more survivable and you won't lose that much damage. Okay, so let's talk about the skills on the front bar. The main spammable is Surprise Attack, slash an enemy, dealing damage and applies the Sundered status effect. What the Sundered does is it gives them Minor Breach, which reduces their armor. And if you strike an enemy from their flank, from behind them, you set them off balance, which is very nice, because then if you can medium or heavy attack, you get double the resistances back and you stun them. So off balance is very nice in PvP, and it will guarantee crit strike once every 4 seconds. And we do a lot of crit damage, thanks to our Gourmand set. Spin to Win, we all know this skill, it's a good execute. I did try using Killer's Blade, but I just kind of liked having a little bit of an AoE there. It's more reliable in PvP situations. Merciless Resolve, we use this before we run in, because it increases your weapon spell damage with every light and heavy attack, and then once you hit 5 light or heavy attacks, it converts to Assassin's Wheel, which is a huge hitting arrow, which does damage and heals you. So if you can line this up with the rest of your burst, if you can line this up with the Vadashran explosion, and just a lot of crits, and when this crits, it's nobody's surviving that. And then we also have Camouflage Hunter, which I don't really use, but whilst it's solid, it gives me Major Savagery and Prophecy, increasing crit chance, and Minor Berserk after dealing damage from somebody's flank. So if we hit them with Surprise Attack, they set off balance, and it gives us Minor Berserk, increasing our damage. And it can bring people out of stealth too. And then also I have Revealing Flare, which brings people out of stealth. So I have 2 skills that do the same, but I don't really use them. But the main reason we have this is for the slottable as well, the major protection. Just an increased 10% reduced damage taken is just too good not to have, if you ask me. So these skills I don't really use. As you can see, they're very expensive, 4,500 stamina and over 5,000 magicka, so I don't really use them, but they're there just for an incredible amount of passive skills, which makes this build nice to play as well, because you only have to worry about these 3 skills on the front bar. And then the ultimate, Dawnbreaker of Smiting, which does huge damage, it's a good stun, damage over time as well, and you get an extra damage for the Fighters Guild passives for having it slotted, same as Camouflaged Hunter. And yeah, line them up with the burst, hit him with this, hit him with the arrow, hit him with surprise attack, you know. They're going down pretty quick. So, on the back bar, we have Healthy Offering, which is a nice magicka burst heal. It does drain your health a little bit, but because this heal can go on an ally, just gotta hope it lands on you. And it also gives you minor mending, so then you can use your other heals, which will increase the healing done by 8%. Very nice to have. Race Against Time. Very good skill, one of the best in the game. Gives you Major Expedition, lets you move faster. Gives you Minor Force, increases your critical damage done by an extra 10%. So we can get well over an extra, I think we can get close to 60% critical damage, which is huge. And then it removes snares and immobilizations. It's a pretty must have. Shadowy Disguise lets you go invisible. It's your main survivable skill. Having high resistances plus having Shadowy Disguise, you're almost unkillable. It's so good. Resolving Vigor, nice heal over time, and gives you minor resolve, increasing your resistances. And then the Rally, which gives you a heal over time, gives you major brutality and sorcery, and is a burst heal as well. And it procs your Vadashran. So the way I usually do it is if, like, I will pop that start of the fight, pop this start of the fight. But when you get into panic mode, say if I'm attacking on this bar, I get down to 50% health, I will switch. I will use Healthy Offering, I will hit Vigor, and then I will usually go into Stealth. So if you hit Vigor before Stealth, that's the way to do it, because if you use this first, Vigor will bring you out of Stealth, and then top up with the Rally. And then last but not least, Temporal Guard. Step backwards in time, so you rewind 4 seconds, but it's mainly there again for the slottable of 5% reduced damage taken thanks to minor protection. So you could argue that I could put this on the back bar, so then we'll have major and minor protection on the back bar, but I really like having a source of major protection on the front bar, so when I'm doing my damage I don't have to worry about dying as much, because, you know, you're tankier on the front bar. And that means the more damage you can do before you have to switch to your back bar and heal. So yeah, we'll show you this in action just a little bit. Make sure we buff up fully, hit Merciless Resolve early, go into Stealth, and heavy attack into Surprise Attack. Because you won't have to disengage from you won't have to disengage from fights very much. You can keep the Vadashran proc going, and then when you come out of Stealth, you'll be able to hit him with the Vadashran, the Surprise Attack, and then hopefully the Merciless Resolve as well, and then a Dawnbreaker if you need to. So yeah, there's so many different ways you can combo your burst with this build, and if you've got because we've got the huge crit damage, it's just unsurvivable. This build hits hugely hard, which is why I was suggesting maybe switching to Trial by Fire for a little bit more survivability, because we really don't need the damage, because we're, you know, even in this high tank meta, we are hitting very hard. I think one thing I didn't really talk about is the traits of the jewelry. So we've gone for 3 infused, 1 weapon damage, and 2 recovery. I was thinking about maybe switching one of these to Swift for a bit of movement damage. So if you feel like you need a bit of movement damage, I'd switch one of these stamina recoveries to a Swift, I think. Okay, so let's just go into the champion points. Green trees, the usual. Get that rationer because the food's very expensive. And then get, Breakfall for the reduced fall damage, which is very useful in PvP. And the blue tree, we've gone for Master at Arms, increasing your damage done with direct damage attacks, which is most of what we've got going on. Backstabber, increasing your crit damage done which is very useful for us because we're a high crit build. Fighting Finesse, increase your crit damage and critical healing, again, by an extra 8%. So that paired with the Gourmand set, it gives you a huge amount of crit. And Deadly Aim, increase your damage done with single target attacks, which again is the most of what we got. We've gone for Celerity for the movement speed. It's very nice to have quick movement speed in PvP. Rejuvenation for a little bit of extra recovery. Pain's Refuge to reduce the damage taken by 2% for every 2 negative effects on you, so survivable, slottable. And Boundless Vitality for the extra health. And there we go, I think that's everything. Like I say, this build's so much fun. You can just stay in the fight, you don't have to run away and like reset all your skills. You can just stay in it, absolutely wreak havoc on everybody. And that's the build. Thank you so much for watching. This build is so much fun to play, especially if you enjoy the same playstyle that I do. Remember to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to poke that subscribe button, and of course leave a comment down below and let me know what you think of it, or if you have any ideas to further improve. If you want to see this or any of my other PvP builds in action, then check out my live streams over on Twitch. I'll leave all relevant links in the description. Thank you all for the support as always, thanks for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.